Okay, good evening, everybody. Today we are looking at change management, part of our workplace productivity series, the fifth class in a six-class series for our Giving Back series 2021. So we're looking at change. We'll talk about change as a constant. If we look around us, we'll find that things are changing. We are changing, we are aging for a start. Our mindsets also change when we receive new knowledge, new skills, new experiences. Technologies are changing. Processes of achieving various goals and tasks are also changing. Individuals change every day. Ideas based on the knowledge that we used to have can change when our knowledge improves or expands. Our methods will change. The way we perform daily tasks and our lives generally are subject to change. So for us, is for us to understand change, understand the value of it, see how we can tap into change as a tool for progress. If you don't embrace change, you will stay rooted in certain ways you have been. Progress does not happen unless you can embrace change. So we're looking at it from the standpoint of an individual. I am an individual. I need to change. I need to respond to change going on around me. I'm also looking at it as a manager or a leader who's trying to make progress for the entire team, who's trying to move the organization to some expected end. And in doing that, we all must make changes, or we, led by me now as manager or leader, need to introduce change that everybody needs to be carried along in. So what will I do to get people to flow with the changes that will lead us to the progress that we are anticipating? If I try to make people bend people towards a particular direction, no matter how clearly that vision has been, no matter how well articulated I have been, it will be a case of forcing a horse to the river and not being able to make the horse drink water. So the first thing you need to think about whenever you are considering any kind of change, what is in it for me, WIFM? What is in it for me? As you answer that question, you also answer the question, what is in it for all stakeholders, him, her, A, B, C. You must be clear enough about it for everybody before you can go ahead and say, I think this change will work, let us explore it. Okay, so once you have understood that, you begin to talk about a plan. A change management and communication plan must be put in place, where you outline your strategy for the change. You employ strategies for gathering data, addressing concerns of people and the issues they may bring up, evaluating options, and adopting a change direction. Utilize methods for leading change projects, meetings, planning, communication, celebrating success, describing benefits, pros and cons of the particular change you're forcing or trying to bend everybody towards, and so on and so forth. So the whole idea is you are planning ahead. Now, we describe plan as written answers to questions. If you have something you want to implement and you've asked yourself, what is it? How am I going to do it? When am I going to do it? Who am I going to do it with? And so on and so forth. And you have answers to those questions. You have created a plan. Okay. Part of what we're going to be looking at in this discussion, in this class, is what we call appreciative inquiry, a process for carrying people along. Don't rush into conclusions on your own. The team, the people that you work with, need to be carried along. And carrying them along is what has been defined as appreciative inquiry. We're going to look at that details later. And then we'll look at resiliency and flexibility. What makes a resilient person? When change happens, most people buckle on that change. They don't know how to own the change. They don't know how to act. They don't know how to ride on the change. They don't know how to adjust to take advantage of the change. So they allow the change pound on them and they suffer the brunt of the change. Resilient people know how to take advantage of change. And then we'll talk about flexibility, being able to adapt when changes are happening to us. Remember, most of the changes you will encounter in your life are not under your control. You have to choose. If you're a resilient and flexible person, you will choose proactive ways of adapting to the change, taking advantage of the opportunities that the change brings. If you are not, you will be making a list of excuses for why you are not making progress, why you're not solving problems, why you are not delivering on your task and your goals. And you will have all of those excuses to heap on a certain external change that you didn't have control over. That is what makes us human. We are either the resilient and flexible, or we are the ones that are not resilient and flexible. And the difference is always clear in how quickly we make progress in life. So as part of this workplace productivity series, it's very important for us to understand how to tackle change, both in terms of its impact on us as individuals as we try to make progress, and change as a tool for moving our teams and our organizations towards the goals that we want to achieve together. Today's change management initiatives have become a business discipline, driving bottom line results through change in systems and behaviors. Managing change has therefore become a critical skill, both for leadership and for workers in an organization. Pauline Kaiser said, continuity gives us roots. Change gives us branches, letting us stretch and grow and reach new heights. Back to my comments earlier, we cannot make progress without embracing change. If you are where you were, doing what you always done, getting the kind of results you always, of course, you always get kind of results you always get if you don't make any change. And if that is mediocre and stunted in terms of growth, that's what is going to be forever. Defining your strategy. Think about what needs to change. Do you just go about making changes for the sake of change? No. You need to first of all understand your current situation and why you think there should be change. How much perceived need for the change exists? And if this change were to come about, who will be impacted? Now, why you ask these questions? An FM department, for example, can make a change in how people make requests, in the procedure for making requests in the organization. That change can make the work of the FM more convenient by forcing people to do things in a certain way. But the FM needs to ask himself, before proposing this change in procedure, who is going to be impacted? And how will this impact be received by those groups? For how long will this effect of this impact be felt? You need to think about it, because you could make a change in one area that sounds like a good deal, good improvement, but it's affecting another stakeholder, another individual, another department negatively. So we don't talk about change for the sake of change. We need to also consider who it is going to impact. And if we agree to eventually move on with a certain change or a certain step towards the path of progress, who will serve as a sponsor? Who will be the person that will own it with enough authority to say, I have a vested interest in this kind of change or improvement? What functional groups should be represented to lead the effort? What will happen if we do move in that direction? Or what will happen if we don't? When somebody is asking you to analyze the impact of change, don't only focus on what is going to happen if we make the change. Also compare that with what will happen if we don't make the change, if we stay put the way we are. And then also think about what we call risk, pros and cons. How will this change affect different areas? What are positives and what are negatives to these various areas about the change that I'm proposing? To effectively implement a change, you want to move a team towards success, you must select members who display a high degree of skill in these 6 key elements. Change cannot take place when people have apathy or are indifferent. People who can implement change should be able to show commitment. It's not enough to speak about change. You know how we hold meetings and say, we should do this, this is not working, we should move in this, we should move in that direction. After all the we statements, what do you get? No action. Nobody takes the bull by the horn and acts to implement what has been agreed. So you need to be very careful that you don't allow your change initiative to be left in the hands of people who are not committed. People who are not ready to contribute their time, their efforts, their resources, even their finances to a change process. That's why we say you must put your pocket where your mouth is. It is easy to advocate change. It's easy to say this is a path that's so clear for us to make progress. But how many people want to make the efforts, want to put in the resources, sacrifice required to move in that direction? Also, people who are good at communication. Because every time a change is being implemented, remember when I said, what's the need for me, the YIFM, it's important to understand that it affects multiple people, more people and stakeholders. And because it affects more people and stakeholders, there must be some means of oiling that relationship and that communication, that interaction. Good communication, a mindset of cooperation, being able to identify conflict proactively and be willing to resolve the conflict, and a sense of connection between your inner values and the change that you are trying to propose. So the first thing, the bottom line to all change, you can't implement a change alone. It's going to affect people. You need to move people along. So you must first start by identifying what is in it for them. Napoleon Hill said, when your desires are strong enough, you will appear to possess superhuman powers to achieve. For change to be successful, people must desire to support and participate in the change. That I have described the change very well. I have shared the vision. I have created awareness about what needs to be done and how we're going to achieve so and so results is not enough. each person must have his own personal benefits for moving along with that change. And this is the hardest part of change management. If you try to shove it down the throat of your team members and say, this is it, we must do it, you will get reluctant, compliant people. Very reluctant. And they are the people that will work with you looking for opportunities to prove that this thing does not work. I can assure you, anything you approach with the mindset of, let's just try, it may work, it may not work, there's a high likelihood that it will not work. That's why Napoleon Hill says, when a desire is strong enough, you will appear to possess superhuman powers to achieve. Results will most likely occur when you have a strong desire. That strong desire can only come out of WIFM. What is in it for me? That's where you start from to gain support to a change initiative. So if I'm going to have 5 stakeholder groups involved in a change, I'll have to start articulating what's in it for each of those groups. If I don't, it will always be obvious what's in it for me, the person proposing or the proponent of this change. And if that becomes the only topic, I'll have to carry that monkey alone, or others will actively sabotage the change. But if before I come out with that idea and discuss it with people, I have taken time to do a small analysis about what's the need for each stakeholder class or individual in the group, I would have scored most of the points I need to score. That's when you get into introducing your change and you find people who become advocates, who are owning the change on their own, who are moving with it with more reasons than you even articulated at the beginning, because now they've seen what's in it for them, they are switched on. So in order to answer this question, what's in it for me? You must create energy and engagement around the change so that everybody in the organization you're working in or the team you're working with will feel a sense of engagement. But the nature of the change will affect your definition of what's in it for me, because certain change will have a certain impact on one group more than the other. We'll have more advantages for one stakeholder or different advantages and different disadvantages for different stakeholders. And then the kind of organization that you're working in, organizational context for that change. The employee's personal situation. What's your level in the organization? You get to a certain point where you begin to be heard in an organization. So your situation is gotten to that point where you can bring up an idea and somebody will listen and say, please tell me more. And then what's in it for me is also affected by our individual stereotypes, the kind of being that we are. You know, we are all different. Different things motivate us. So I might think that a beach party will motivate you and make you feel happy and connect you with the project. It may not be. Maybe something else. So, in a sense, a project manager, a leader, an operations manager, an FM who is trying to implement a change or introduce a change need to have some level of understanding of the individuals you are working with. So you can clearly present ideas for what they need for me, for each class or each individual. Well, you see, some FMs have come out to say, oh, well, I recommended this change, I recommended that change. There were so many improvements I brought, initiatives I used to bring, and management don't like taking my initiatives. They don't listen to me, and so on and so forth. you need to do your homework. There's usually a need to carry someone at the top along. Many of us are too anxious to take glory for our ideas. It's not worth it. Every time you try to take glory for your ideas, half the time or more, those ideas never see the light of day. Every time you get someone at the top to identify with the idea and own it and drive it while you are only cheering, not claiming the glory, you will find a lot of your ideas gaining ground. Effective communication are essential for building support throughout the organization. Whoever communicates with people impacted by a change must have a clear understanding of the overall nature of the change, the reason and how it aligns with the goals and strategy of the organization. You must understand the risk of not changing. You must be able to articulate that side of the analysis that says, if we do nothing, this is what's going to happen. You must also be conscious of the timing for change. There are certain changes that you have tried to implement at some point in time in your career that were turned down. And when they came up later at other time in the organization, they were accepted and even amplified. It's not a personal thing. Your timing could have been wrong, especially changes that might involve funds release, that might involve other structural organizational changes that will affect multiple areas or people. So you need to think about the timing as well. And then when it's time to present your information, there are certain changes you don't just start by writing. Sometimes you say, can we have a talk? Can we have a group meeting? Can I have a one-on-one? Because you need to think about how that message will be accepted. And most of the time, a message will not be accepted just because of the content of the message. The channel, the mode, the medium of delivery can play a role. A messenger can create a scenario that will make a message that will have been accepted, rejected, just because of who the messenger and how the messenger operates. Okay. So what are the things that influence change? There are two primary areas in which you can look at this. There are external influences of change, and there are the internal ones. The external ones, we really don't have significant impacts on them. Politics, for example, election year, campaigns, change of guard in government policies, new laws. We will not be able to influence this much. Even culture. There are certain cultural adjustments that just happens around us. You may be numb to the switching or changing of culture. You may be worried about it, but in many cases, you may not be able to influence it. What about the economy? Inflation rates, cost of doing business, complications in working with government agencies. A lot of these things happen around us. Or we may not have any influence on them. But every organization will have certain things happening within the organization that are internal to it that can influence change. For example, you find out that the organization has been recruiting a certain age bracket, millennials. If an organization employs a certain age bracket and their own way of thinking and doing things and expectations are different, what do you expect? The organization will have to align, bend its ways, readjust So if you find yourself as one or two odd persons out of that age bracket, you will have to deal with the change, isn't it? Policy changes, organizational structure, individuals in certain positions can also lead to changes. How do we react to change? The first thing is denial. Just the feeling that that change is not necessary. And being reluctant to even listen or hear about it. This is very primary and an easy situation for most people to be in. Deny the facts or information relating to the change. Others will understand and take a position of resistance. This is very common, and it is linked to that word fear. Fear of the unknown. I know how hard it was for many people to adjust to organizations switching from paper logbooks into those computer boxes, cathode ray tubes. They were terrified. They'll be announcing all kinds of training, and people just cross their heart. Look, this is going to expose my daftness. I've been shining under these circumstances, and I'm happy with it. Why are you bringing this change? That's exactly what people will feel when they are bringing that resistance. But the truth is, they are scared. Just the way most of us will be scared when approaching an exam. Somebody says, if you write this exam, you'll get a certificate if you pass. And somebody says, oh, why do you even have to do exam? Do we still need exam? It's exam, a true test of knowledge and skill. We start theorizing and postulating. The truth is, we are trying to resist out of fear. Some can go all out anger. You just want to uproot that change, remove it. These are the kind of changes that have most direct impact on us as individuals. You become uncooperative, start exhibiting apathy, indifference, start lashing out, start looking for who will listen to you. Especially, again, when you have certain behaviors, when you have certain sentiments that change is going to directly attack. You will feel angry, you feel targeted. And then indifference. They don't just care. Change or no change, I'm fine the way I am. You need to watch this because it is possible that these individuals will not fully understand what the change is. Because when the chips are down and they finally understand what the change is, they may end up with one of those anger or resistance or denial eventually. Some people are already resilient enough to hear of change for the first time and accept it. But this is often easier when that change is going to bring positive impact to you. I remember once when an organization I worked in, they found a way to recalculate the way pension was calculated. And so that they will do it based on a certain fraction of the salary. So the amount that's going into pension will be reduced, which now makes more money available to you, the staff. But ultimately, the organization now saves more money, because if it was 10,000 from employee and 10,000 from employer before, and the employer found a way to let you know that it's now going to be 5,000 from both sides. Some employees are celebrating extra 5,000 to spend now, forgetting that they just lost 5,000 overall. Because you should have had 10,000, 20,000 put into your pension. Now you're having 10,000 put into your pension, and you're having extra 5,000 to spend. So you've lost 5,000 from that readjustment. But just because you have extra change to spend now, you're celebrating. That change is easy to accept. There'll be some in that same organization who will think of it and say, no, this is not making sense. At what rate would my pension amount to something during my retirement if it is being slashed like this? So acceptance can be very easy when we perceive that it's positive towards us. But if it's not positive towards us, we tend to pick up on any of those, all those options. But you can make every change positive for everybody if you identify the what's in it for me of everybody, every stakeholder. So some tools to help the change process. Communication, that's the first one. Keep it open and transparent. Don't figure out all of the change in your head. Keep the details in your mind and then drop it out at the last minute. It won't help anybody. Don't take people by surprise. We're teaching that people should be involved. The least you can do is to give them enough information, even if they're not involved, so that they can begin to consider the pros and cons, risk, advantages that will, how that particular change will affect them. When people begin to hear about such changes, don't just communicate and drop it and say, we have told you, and that is it. No, that's not it. People need to know that there will be information, there will be education, there will be training, there will be all kinds of adjustments built into the process of implementing it. Because there will be a lot of what if. Don't be blockheaded towards what if. Listen to the what if. Because you have not taken all the time to do all the consideration of the impact of this change on everybody. So when they are coming, what if this, what if that? Some are playing devil's advocate deliberately. Listen. Build some level of flexibility into the system so that if somebody fails, you've already provided a means of lifting that person's hand up. It's also important that the individuals that are involved in the change should participate in it. Don't dump a change on people. I can't call my artisans and say, okay, I've changed the process of servicing the ACs. From now on, this is the new work method. I can't just do that. I need them to sit down with me and then we'll discuss what is the need for change. What are the issues with our current processes for servicing air conditioners? What are the challenges we are currently having? What improvements can we make to the process? So I'm leading them through the change process. I might have figured out a lot of stuff. I might have studied. I might have gone for new courses and training. I might already know what change needs to come in. But I will not just come in and dump it and say, there you go, take it or leave it. That's a recipe for failure. Every change begins with a leadership decision. Making the decision to institute changes is not always easy. Being prepared, planning well, and being surrounded by a good team will make that decision a lot easier. So you that is proposing change, you must have a positive frame of mind. You must be a reassuring and active force Don't drop change and say, all right, all of you go and execute that change while you go and take a sip of coffee. No. You plan, prepare yourself to be part of it. Because the person who is going to carry others along, we keep saying carry others along, but the real breakdown of that statement is share the vision and inspire them to connect with it. That's what it means to carry along. Inspire them to connect with it. The motivation will have to come from the individual that is reacting or responding to you. It's impossible to prepare for every contingency. But when you plan for what is already known, there's a likelihood that the unknown will not come in such proportions. The things that is already known, the facts that is already on the table, if you've not considered and planned for them, and then later you want to start blaming the ones that you could not figure out earlier on, or the ones that came to you as a surprise. The ones that are not surprised, deal with them first. Surround yourself with people that you can delegate to and be confident in their abilities and skills. If you have saboteurs all around you, shelve that change first. Don't bring about change. Don't start talking about change and progress and improvement. No. Start talking about how you can get connected to them, how you can become a team again in the true sense of the word. Once there is that bond, there's that connection, there's that shared vision and knowledge, you can now begin to introduce changes. It becomes more likely that people will act in the best interest of the group. So when you want to delegate, you can delegate with your eyes closed. You can be sure that once tasks are assigned, people will do their own part of it because they understand the vision. They have accepted it. They are connected and now committed to you. You must also have a sense of relinquishing what's been delegated. Some of us are very good at micromanaging. You say I've delegated, but you don't even leave 5 minutes space between you and that person. You are still giving the instructions step by step. Why do you keep lines of communication open and you be available for interactions to give continuous positive reinforcement as the change is being implemented? You must be careful not to be the one taking all the decisions along the path. It's already heavy enough that you have taken a decision as a leader to move your team in a certain direction of change and progress. Don't still be the one who has to take decision on every step of the way. Otherwise, you will not be successful. People need resources to deliver on change. You don't talk about a new tool that will be needed for a particular new process, and that tool has not been provided, or that resource has not been provided. You say the process should start. With what means are they going to implement it? Also be very careful. If you are the kind of person that is reserved with information, that tells people things in little bits, that uses divide and rule strategy, giving a little information here, holding the rest back till sometimes you say on a case, on a need to know basis. You will not allow people to develop their own conclusions that may overwhelm you. You know that if you did not answer a question that had not been asked, some people will ask their own questions and answer it themselves. That's why a lot of times you will see frequently asked questions. It's not as if these questions have actually been asked. The person who's proposing the change is writing a series of questions down. These are the likely questions. And then with those likely questions, providing answers. When people see that level of transparency, that level of openness, there's a high likelihood that they will be switched on. There's a high likelihood that they will not listen to rumors because you are dishing out enough information to feed them the correct facts instead of rumors. How many times have you tried to initiate a nice idea, fantastic project, initiative, and you had a pushback? Not everybody will agree, but keep in mind that these are normal feelings. In some cases, it will be all-round rejection. In some cases, you have a few people who are sentimental towards your ideas. But in all cases, you must learn to work with facts, not feelings, not emotions. You see, I've seen a lot of FMs come to say, oh, we've been wasting money on this equipment will be maintained over and over, we keep spending money on it, it breaks down all the time. And as the MD, I'll say, no, keep using it. Show me, otherwise show me with facts, tangible data, what you are saying. When was the last time you broke down? How much did you spend? What caused the breakdown? What was the root cause you did that time? How many times has it broken down in the last 6 months and 1 year? How much have we spent altogether? You don't have mean time between failure data. You don't have cost of repair data. You don't have pass replace data. You don't have hours spent on the job data. You don't have number of complaints. Because the equipment was out of service. You don't have any data. You just have this sentimental feeling that, see, it will soon break down, all of you will cry again now. It's not enough to have anecdotal information about the feeling of tension that we all have when something did not work for one day. If you are going to make a case for a change, provide facts. Let your numbers click. Let there be an objective reason why we should listen to you and take what you are saying, not what you feel. You say, oh, people like it this way. If you ask people now, you see that they like it. When have you surveyed to find how many people will like it and how many people don't like it? Where's the data to support that survey results? Are you just assuming, because you talk to 1 or 2 persons, that they will all like it, we should make that change? It's very important to always think about change in terms of facts and figures. If you're encountering an extreme case of pushback, provide them with some choices that will still fall within the spectrum of the intended change. I, for one, like working with the rule of thumb 3. I know the direction I want to move us in, but I will not be the one to come with only one way of solving that thing or making that change. I'll give you options. Give you an analysis of each of those options, pros, cons, risks. Once I've done that, I'll give you my recommendation. But each of those 3 options should lead me to my destination, to my required change. I won't drop in options that will tilt us in another direction. No, it won't make sense. How do you gain support for change? It's important that you get people to participate. If people feel that they have their stamp, their signature on the plan, they will most likely act to implement it. There will be less likely chance of that project failing because each person has sufficient ego to want to defend his own stake. Projects that fail, initiatives that fail, usually will be because people who are implementing it don't feel like they are the owners. You have to continue increasing awareness and to build desire to support the upcoming changes. You, the leader or the change management team, must reach out to the organization, reach out to every team member, identify pros and cons, and options, different options. So you get people brainstorming, analyzing the opposing positions until you get people with divergent opinions to look at what you think was proper and right, you won't know how your own paradigm might have led you astray. So you engage them, you address their concerns, give them the tools that they need to be able to think and analyze. And when you have people that are not switched on, your job is to ensure that you show them there was in it for me and show them how they can be aligned in a beneficial way. And then also tie changes to your performance management systems, your appraisal systems. If your organization is a progressive organization that makes a lot of changes, and appraisals does not account for how people click on change and adopt and grow with change, then of course it's not important to you to have resilient people in the organization. That's why your appraiser is not the performance measurement system does not track it. How do you evaluate that a change that is being implemented or a change that's been introduced is producing the required results? You need to ask people questions. So surveys, questionnaires, small groups to have a discussion, email with response requirements. People must talk. People must give you their feedback. Even when we all accepted a change at the onset and we have moved on to the implementation, don't just say, oh, let's give ourselves a chair. We've done very well. You need to have a means of gathering information on how that change actually panned out or played out. Did it meet the objectives we set? If it did not meet it, what was the gap? And what can we learn from it? Because if you are not doing that, you will not know whether you should continue pushing that change or you should stop at some point. So you don't necessarily need to get to the end of a full implementation or rollout of a change before you start getting feedback. And you get people to meet, you get people to have discussions, you get people to, they speak and you listen to what they are saying. And then you give assignments and people, bring ideas. If these ideas are brought together, now don't use any kind of bias to assess people's ideas. You need to, first of all, establish what we are trying to arrive at, our objectives. Give them a feeling of belonging, empowerment, that they won't just shut up and start watching you and say, whatever you say is fine. No, they will want to participate. And then it's your goal now to bring those divergent opinions and see if you can get unanimity, consensus, develop that from the discussions that come out of those. And then it's important to have celebrations. When changes are implemented and the results are positive, one-on-one interactions with individuals who have played critical roles is very key. Let them know that their contribution to that change is important. Public recognition, where people are actually told in front of everyone else how they have impacted this change that have brought that much result. But we need to be careful here because sometimes a team may be the ones to take that public recognition, not an individual. Because it's a team effort, the team should take that recognition together. And then we all like some form of celebrations, social celebrations, entertainment, whatever would help to show that we have started generating momentum for making changes and making progress. We'll make one progress, we're looking forward to the next one because there's a sweet taste at the end of that change. In order to sustain the impact of a change, it's important for everyone who is involved in the process to know what results are occurring. So share information. The way you were open and transparent at the onset or at the beginning, that's how you should be open and transparent throughout. Results need to be shared. If I start an energy efficiency initiative in the organization, people are switching off lights, people are flushing with less water, people are, cleaning up after themselves to reduce maintenance costs. If I'm not measuring the impact of all of these efforts and, announcing back to them, oh, we saved 200,000 in total energy bills last month, and these are the habits and behaviors that help us to drive that amount of savings. Next month, we're hoping for this and that changes to go on. If I'm running a 6 months energy efficiency program in the organization, every week, every month, I must give updates on what our efforts are yielding. Do you know some people will come out of their car in the basement, climb all the way up to go and switch off a switch or put off a fridge that has nothing inside, just because they see that for every effort, results are coming out. The fridge is virtually empty. Just 1/2 bottle of Coke that's in the fridge. Why do I want to let the fridge run till tomorrow? I'll ask. Nobody will tell me, oh, no. If there's nothing in the fridge or there's one item, or put it up. Nobody will tell me, because I know that if I put this off between today and tomorrow, we're going to save probably so and so kilowatt hours. And this will bring such naira and kobo savings. I want to do it because I'm seeing that leaderboard calculations. As the FM is coming to give me reports on a daily basis, I will do more. That's exactly how to sustain change initiatives in your organization. So finally wrap up with this discussion on using appreciative inquiry, a model for change management developed by David Copper-Ryder, a professor at Case Western University. Is basically a process of involving people, mobilizing, engaging all stakeholders, creating a clear vision. That's the dream part of it. Design, creating possibility propositions of the idea or organization, articulating an organization design that is capable of drawing upon and magnifying the positive cause to realize the newly expressed dream. And then destiny, strengthening the affirmative capability of the whole system, enabling it to build hope and sustain momentum for ongoing positive change and high performance. You are using this tool, this positive, this approach to basically get everybody tuned in and make that change a self-powered mechanism. Get them involved. Your culture as an organization will become a culture of we all own this. We all want to do our part to make it work. And it starts with bringing people to your side. They begin to see the need to be involved. If there's something that people perceive you are gaining on your own, there's an ulterior motive or there's a vested interest in a change, you can't sell it anymore. It's dead on arrival. Suspicion is how they will work with you. But if you are seen to be selfless, committed to the people and to the organization and the overall goal of the team, boy, everybody will jump in. People will feel encouraged to shine as individuals. They will know that they are being heard. They know that whatever they have in their head and they say it, they will not be ridiculed. They will feel more free in a safe place to share dreams as they dialogue together. People feel empowered in an appreciative inquiry environment and assume commitments they might not otherwise undertake. The awareness that others care about their work makes individuals comfortable experimenting with new ideas. Thirdly, the environment validates the fact that it is acceptable to have fun. People feel positive and proud of their work experience. When you implement changes, there's usually that lethargy that sets in over time. We've celebrated, we've enjoyed, we've seen the change, but people start, interest will start waning. What an audit system does for us is that it helps us to measure, generate the data that will help us to sustain that momentum. Just keep sharing information. Let people be accountable for the actions. Let reward systems be tied to objective data. We look at resiliency, the capability to absorb high levels of change while maintaining the level of performance and displaying minimal dysfunctional behavior. Once we believe in ourselves, we can risk curiosity, wonder, spontaneous delight, or any experience that reveals the human spirit. That's from E.E. Cummings. When people encounter change and they come out strong, they come out on top, you say that person is resilient. Something that should have crushed you, you ended up standing on top of it. That's resilience. Resilient people will perceive more opportunity and are more proactive than non-resilient people. They approach life as meaningful, as a guiding beacon, and they are always optimistic. Non-resilient people, on the other hand, they perceive danger. Every change is a danger. They are too afraid. The fable I was told when I was growing up about a man that received an oracle prediction that he would die by a tree. Since he was told that tree will kill him, he decided to stay inside his house and not go out again because he doesn't want to be around any tree. That way, I'm sure he would have lived forever. And then, just a doorpost came out of his joint and fell on him and he died. Did he die of tree? I'm sure he still died of tree. What's the point here? Do not act out of fear. Do not allow your only response to change that of fear. It is destructive. See change as something that brings you an opportunity and you will ride on it. 5 steps for the leader and the individual to manage this change process. Develop a more positive worldview. Not everything around you is doom and gloom. In fact, give people the benefit of the doubt. Assume in a lot of situations that there is some silver lining or positive outcome from every circumstance or situation. But keep a focused sense of purpose. You know that every change that comes your way, like alerts or notifications beeping on your phone, you must click on every one. No, that's not what I'm talking about. Maintain focus. Use flexible thinking to explore multiple approaches for addressing uncertainty. Flexible thinking means that you don't have a rigid mindset. You can give considerations for other alternatives that you have not considered before. You can consider them now and dispassionately do the analysis and decide whether it's something you can consider or not. Use organized, structured approaches when managing ambiguity. Experiment proactively with new approaches and solutions. There's something I always do. When somebody says, no, don't use that option. It's too expensive. I always ask, how much is it? Do you realize that some of us have, out of fear of one option being too expensive, refuse to explore it, become mediocre, only to find out that we're even spending more than the so-called too expensive? We didn't even consider it. We didn't analyze it. A man was invited on a cruise. He has paid his fare. He was on the cruise, keeping himself in his room, has his meals with him, and he was invited all the time to come for dinner, to come play in the pool, to come do this and that, play games with his friends. And he said, no, I'm fine. On the final day, they had this big banquet for all the guests in the cruise. And he came out and asked, how much is it? I said, no, you're not supposed to pay extra. Every of the enjoyment was covered in your tickets. And you spent a whole month locked in the room, not enjoying any of the things you've already paid for. Why? Because he approached everything with fear. I can't afford it. I don't want to do this. I don't want to be embarrassed. I can't speak because I don't know how to teach people. I can't accept that management position because I will not be required to run training. I cannot do this. I don't know maths. I don't want to become a manager that will be giving accounts at the end of the month. We reject things. We turn down opportunities. We resist change just because we do not want to push ourselves. We don't want to be flexible. We don't want to be resilient. Don't run from something you don't know. Know it. So when you are running, you know how fast to run. You know what direction to run towards. Being flexible on personal and social levels is critical for individuals involved in or leading a change to be able to manage the shifts as necessary during a project. What then is flexibility? People that can generate a broad range of thoughts and possible responses without feeling compelled to decide on one response. Being able to look at things from multiple angles. Not being fixated on this is how it is done. This is how we used to do it. This is how we have always done it. Who is bringing this strange ideas now? No, let's keep doing it the way we have always been doing it. That's not flexibility. That's not flexibility. It's actually a weakness. You can't be a team player if you're not flexible. You cannot expand your horizon. You cannot build on what you already know if you're not flexible. Brainstorming is the process of dropping ideas from multiple people and multiple sources. If you're not flexible, you can't brainstorm. You can't pull ideas together. Learn to swap sides every now and then. Play devil's advocate. I'm the one that wants it today. You say you don't want it. Okay, let's reverse roles. Let me give you 5 points why I no longer want it. Why you give me 5 points why you now want it. It's almost like a debate when you swap sides in the discussion. Take this position, let me take this position. Let's see what more ideas we can bring up. Suspend judgment during the change. Judgment is usually based on stereotypes, biases that we can pick out of our circumstances, our environment, our family background, our culture, our ethnicity, whatever our experiences have been. Put it aside. You start practicing thinking of paradoxes, both sides of a coin all the time. Take up roles that you're not familiar with. You give somebody an assignment, he says, I've not done it before. That is the statement I hate most in my life, everywhere I've worked. You can't tell me you've not done it before. What is the meaning of that statement? If everyone that had not done it before never did it, would it ever have been done in the first place? Not done it before. I don't want to get involved because I've not done it before. That's how you know people that will not progress in life. Take it on head on. You start doing something. Start using some of these tools we have discussed to start making some improvements and changes. Don't shy away and say, I've not done it before, therefore I cannot make that change. I know people who have rejected opportunities in life because they are afraid that if they take it, they will be embarrassed. Can you beat that? Can you beat that? And they go back tomorrow complaining how their life has been stagnant, how they're not making progress, how they're not getting promotions, how they're not getting new jobs. If you know anyone who gets out of a job and cannot find another job, that is the person that cannot manage change. That person has been resilient in the former job. The person would have gained new skills and opportunities will come up that these skills will be needed for. The person will know how to socially mingle quickly and network to gain the new position he's looking for. Don't box yourself up because you're afraid of change. On the final note, when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. In fact, Steve Covey, this is Viktor Frankl, Steve Covey said, focus on your area of or your center of strength, where you can, center of influence rather, where you can change. So if I was to flip Viktor Frankl using Steve Covey, I would say change ourselves instead of fighting to change the situation. Change always comes bearing gifts. If you don't absorb or accept change, you can't get the gifts. Price Pritchett. Continuity gives us roots, change gives us branches, letting us stretch and grow and reach new heights. Pauline Kaiser. That's our lesson for today. So questions. You can put your hands up if you want to ask a question. I will give you a chance to ask your questions. I'll recognize you now.